Lesson 1-5, words, equations, tables, and graphs. So pretty much everything that we have been talking about so far is combined in this lesson. Words, we've definitely used words to figure out what operations to use. Equations, well, we really haven't done equations. Equations just mean that you have an equal sign in it. Some of these are just going to be expressions. We might have to write them as equations because that's sometimes how you get the output of y. We're definitely going to use a table for each one and a graph. So let's talk about a function. A function is a relation that each domain, the x, has exactly one range, the y. The thing to remember for what makes a function is this. This is the important part. It really means no x repeats. That's what that statement up there says, a relation in which each domain x has exactly one range y. That means no x repeats. So here's kind of a sample of what you're going to be doing. You'll be given this little situation. You have to come up with a rule. We will have input to use for x. You put it inside the rule and you come up with the output, the matching y. So here's the situation on this one. The team scores 6 points for every TD, touchdown. The team scores 6 points for every touchdown. What do you suppose in this table the input is representing? Anybody got any ideas? Stephen?
The TD.
The TD, the number of touchdowns. Okay? So if it says the team scores 6 points for every touchdown, how would you get the score knowing how many touchdowns? Dakota?
6.
Huh?
Times 6.
Times 6. So my rule, if I have x is the touchdowns, the rule is going to be 6 times x. Does that make sense? 6 times x. Every time you get a touchdown, times 6. Okay, so once you get your rule, we're ready to complete the table. Let's start with this one. This team scored 1 touchdown. I apply the rule 6 times 1, so this is what you would literally write. And what would my output be there? Haley? 6. That team scored 6. All right, the other team, they scored 2. So, Sienna, what do you think the rule is on that row? 6 times 2. And what would the output be? Good job, 12. That team scored 12. Next team scored 5. Wow. Layla, what's the rule in that row? 6 times 5. And what do you think the output would be then? 30. So that team scored 30. Do you have any questions about how this is going to work, how you fill in the rule and the output? So the input was the number of touchdowns, the output was the number of points. In each situation in your homework, you have to decide what the input is going to be and then what result would it give you. You have to figure out the rule, plug the input into the rule, come out with the individual output. Now after you find out and complete the table, it wants you to graph the data from your table. Here's what I want you to do beside this table. Here are my ordered pair. Are you ready? 1, 6, 2, 12, and 5, 30. The input and output are paired together as an ordered pair or an XY. And that is how you get the points so that you can graph these. You pair up the X and the Y from each row, and those are your ordered pair. On this graph, we only have to graph the quadrant 1, the upper right-hand corner, because when we're talking about touchdowns and scores, there's not going to be any negative values. What I did do, because of the size of the graph, I went along the x-axis by 1s, but the y-axis I had to go by 3s in order to get all my points in. So at this point, I can go ahead and graph my points from my table. So 1, 6 means I'm going to go right 1 to where 6 would be, which would be right here. 2 matches 12, which would be right here. And 5 would go all the way up to 30, which would be right here. Now, generally, as you do these, they should all line up in a line. Do you think we could make a line from these?
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to try a different color just to see how it looks. Yep, it sure did. So I can graph those, and it did make a line. So generally, if you do these and they don't line up, then you made a math error somewhere. Okay, are there any questions?
No.
So when you are doing these, the input, output, the table, you'll have to figure out your rule, which is based upon the little description they give you. Fill in the rule, and then take one at a time the input, plug it into the rule to get the output. Those two become your sets of ordered pairs that you graph on the graph.